1,800 factories in Guangzhou wiped out. She takes action again. Chinese migrant workers' harsh realities exposed. Video illustrating 30 of labor ban nationwide. Consumption downgrade. Chinese young people prefer low-scoring restaurants. Dissident Economist reveals reality behind China's declining GDP. It's all covered in today's China Truths. 1,800 factories in Guangzhou wiped out. She takes action again. In the early days of 2024, the Chinese economy is still on a downward trajectory, marked by the closure of factories, the shutdown of brick-and-mortar stores, and a continuous decline in the stock market. On January 8, a video went viral on social media platform X, revealing the complete collapse of 1,800 factories in Guangzhou, along with the freight industry also collapsing. The grim state of China's real economy is undeniably alarming. The video footage captures the last Carrefour store in Shanghai on the brink of closure, with only one cashier left. Restaurant owners express their disappointment as they gaze upon their empty establishments. Markets show a noticeable absence of shoppers, with only the owners standing by their stalls. The manufacturing sector was the first to bear the brunt of economic challenges in China. Large factories are struggling to remain operational, while smaller ones have no choice but to close. The continuous rise in raw material costs has led to an increasing number of small factories shutting down, exemplified by the closure of 1,800 factories in Guangzhou due to poor management. These closed factories often choose to flee, leaving many workers unpaid, pushing more and more individuals into unemployment. This trend is gaining momentum in China. Following this trajectory, the first sector hit by factory closures is the freight industry, where many truck drivers have lost their vehicles due to missed monthly payments, leading to their trucks being seized by financial companies. Parking lots are now crowded with trucks, emphasizing the grim situation in the freight industry. On New Year's Eve, the Chinese Communist Party released manufacturing data that caused concern in the market. The data revealed that factory activity in the previous month had reached its lowest point in 6 months. Additionally, trade tensions between Beijing and Europe escalated, and the bankruptcy application of China's shadow banking giant, Zhongxi Enterprise Group, highlighted growing financial risks. In addition to the widespread closures of factories and physical stores, the Chinese stock market has also started the new year on a weak note. On January 8, the China Shanghai and Shenzhen indices fell below 3,000 points once again, marking a record of 5 consecutive trading days of decline this year. Lauman, an account on the X platform, pointed out that a significant issue is the raising of 2.7 trillion yuan in advance batches of local government debt, which is a fundamental reason for the ongoing decline in the stock market, with over 20 billion yuan being drained from it daily. According to JP Morgan Chase's 2024 Outlook report, the Chinese stock market is expected to reach its limit. On January 8, the China and World Economy Forum took place at Tsinghua University in Beijing. Nomura Securities chief economist, Liu Ting, mentioned at the forum that China's economy is facing challenges in 2024, including a noticeable slowdown in consumption. This is mainly attributed to the weakening wealth effects stemming from housing and stock prices. Liu Ting pointed out that the Chinese real estate market is currently stagnating, and foreign trade is experiencing a decline. Furthermore, industries like new energy vehicles, batteries, and solar photovoltaics are grappling with excess capacity, resulting in a rapid drop in certain raw material and final product prices, ultimately impacting this year's investment growth. On the same day, the third plenary session of the 20th Central Commission for Discipline Inspection of the CCP convened in Beijing, with CCP leader Xi Jinping delivering a speech. Xi Jinping emphasized that the CCP's anti-corruption efforts of the past decade have been overwhelmingly successful and thoroughly consolidated. Nevertheless, in the face of an ongoing grim and complex situation, the fight against corruption must remain unwavering, resolute, and without leniency. The primary focus of the next phase of anti-corruption endeavors is to harshly penalize the collusion between politics and business while also cracking down on minor-scale corruption. Some observers believe that the recent statements from the CCP leadership indicate that the forthcoming anti-corruption measures will be relentless and won't be relaxed due to the current economic downturn. In the previous year, the National Supervisory Commission, in collaboration with the CCP Central Committee, introduced the work plan of the Central Anti-Corruption Coordination Group, 2023 to 2027, for the first time. This plan called for the continual expansion of the scope and depth of the anti-corruption campaign. It involves intensifying investigations into cases across sectors such as finance, state-owned enterprises, healthcare, food procurement and sales, rural revitalization, tobacco, sports, and statistics, while also conducting targeted rectification efforts in areas with prominent industry-specific, systemic, or regional corruption issues to effectively prevent and address systemic risks. In response to the situation, Chinese writer and independent commentator Kai Shenquan expressed in a post on Platform X, the high-profile anti-corruption efforts are exacerbating the challenges faced by the struggling Chinese economy. At the beginning of 2024, the Chinese economy should have come to an end. Chinese migrant workers' harsh realities exposed, video illustrating 30 of labor ban nationwide. On January 9, NetEase News, a prominent Chinese technology company, shared a video titled "Working Like This for 30 Years" on the Chinese platform Bilibili. After gaining popularity within the Chinese internet community on January 9, it was subsequently removed from all websites. The video depicts the living conditions of migrant workers in Hefei, Anhui Province. The majority of these workers face hardships in making a living, with elderly retirees receiving only 100 yuan in pension, about $14.30, and lacking adequate social security. In Hefei, there are 3 key centers for migrant labor. At a particular intersection, around 1,000 workers from different areas gather each morning looking for jobs. Most are over 55, working physically demanding jobs like garbage collection and demolition. However, age restrictions at many construction sites exclude those over 55, and the economic downturn further limits their opportunities. The video features Mrs. Dong Guilan, 57, who has worked in the city for 7 years, struggling with health issues and financial difficulties, including being unable to afford medical care and falling behind on rent. Mr. Wang, 49, a construction worker for 33 years, also faces challenges, including being unable to pay for health insurance. The new rural cooperative medical scheme in China has seen costs rise significantly, from 10 yuan, about 1 for USD, in 2003 to 380 yuan, about 53.22 USD, in 2023, leading many rural residents to opt out due to affordability issues. The video also paints a somber picture, depicting individuals resorting to conflict and deception in their pursuit of job opportunities, only to realize the futility of their efforts after traveling. Its description poignantly states, this generation of migrant workers went from childhood struggles with hunger to strenuous labor as soon as they were able, and as they aged, they continued to work. They contributed to building countless houses, yet not one of them belongs to them. According to China's National Bureau of Statistics, in 2022, there were a staggering 295.62 million rural migrant workers in China. The plight of elderly rural migrant workers, particularly in regions like northern Jiangsu, northern Anhui, and eastern Hunan, is also noted. These workers have been part of the urban workforce since the early 1990s but now find limited opportunities. NetEase News retrospective video at the end of 2022, titled "Saluting Every Ordinary Person Who Has Endured Life," also faced internet censorship. This video addressed various tragedies, including the pandemic lockdowns and notable incidents like the Iron Chain Woman and the Tangshan assault case, but was repeatedly removed by regulators. Chinese migrant workers find themselves without a path forward. According to a report by the New York Times in November of last year, for many years, migrant workers have been a hidden asset in China's economic ascent. They leave their rural origins to seek opportunities in major cities, sending the majority of their earnings back home, even if it entails enduring long work hours, crowded dormitories, and infrequent visits to their families. They have been instrumental in constructing China's skyscrapers, highways, and high-speed railways, yet some high-ranking officials have characterized them as low-end population. Their low wages have contributed to China becoming the world's largest manufacturing nation, infusing vitality and energy into the country's bustling megacities. Today, the circumstances have become challenging, with job prospects dwindling. Nearly 300 million rural migrant workers in China, who have limited social welfare support, find themselves with almost no viable alternatives. They do not have access to the same medical insurance, unemployment benefits, and retirement benefits as urban residents, even though the social safety net for the latter is riddled with gaps. For young rural migrant workers who grew up in urban settings, returning to their hometowns to earn a living is often not a feasible option. The outlook for returning to rural areas is frequently bleak and even daunting. Their parents and older generations may continue working for the entirety of their lives and are often reluctant to seek medical care when ill. They typically lack access to unemployment benefits and cannot rely on their families in the same way as some urban youth, as the pensions of their parents and older generations barely suffice for basic necessities. Consumption downgrade. Chinese young people prefer low-scoring restaurants. The economic downturn and consumption downgrade are believed to have started a new trend in China. On January 9th, the phenomenon of young people flocking to 3.5-star restaurants became a trending topic on mainland Chinese social media. According to a China Youth Daily report, a minority of consumers, curious to experience how bad it can be, are increasingly visiting restaurants with low ratings of around 3.5 stars. In contrast, many others have been disappointed by the overhyped, high-rated establishments, finding unexpectedly satisfying experiences in these lower-rated venues. Ms. Luan, who regularly dines out with friends on weekends, intentionally opts for lower-rated restaurants. Similarly, Mr. Zhang, a frequent diner, mentions that due to the plethora of highly rated restaurants, it's challenging to make a choice. He recalls a positive dining experience at a restaurant rated just 3.9. Many interviewees said that the ratings of online platforms are distorted, and some low-rated restaurants are not that bad. Many netizens left messages saying that the reason behind the high ratings is because the boss invests a lot in advertising. Some netizens pointed out that the real reason for the reverse selection is the downgrade of consumption caused by the economic downturn. As young people choose low-scoring restaurants, at the end of last year, 2-yuan bakeries popped up in many cities in Shandong, and young people became the main consumers. At that time, people left messages, "It means everyone has no money." Dissident Economist reveals reality behind China's declining GDP. Since the new year, several Japanese research institutes have released reports suggesting that the growth of China's gross domestic product was around 5% in 2023 and will drop in 2024, maybe to 4%. US-based Chinese economist Li Hingqing agrees that China's economy will continue to decline, but he believes that China's GDP statistics do not hold real meaning since, to begin with, they've been manipulated. Mr. Li is a U.S.-certified public accountant who witnessed the Tiananmen Square massacre in 1989 and was imprisoned by the Chinese Communist Party for a year after he participated in the protests. On January 3, Mr. Li talked about the current trends in China's economy in an interview. On March 5 last year, the State Council of China submitted its budget for the new year, setting its GDP growth target at around 5%, its lowest in nearly 30 years. According to Mr. Li, Beijing set this target due to its uncertainty around economic growth after 3 years of the COVID-19 pandemic. He said, "Some people think that after 3 years of pandemic restrictions, there will be an increase in revenge spending in China after the restrictions were lifted. That's why the GDP growth target was set at around 5%. However, this simply turned out to be an illusion. China's economy stagnated in the first quarter, then improved a little bit in the second quarter, and then fell back in the third quarter. So, there was a big effort in the fourth quarter, but the new figures for that quarter are not out yet. The revenge retaliatory spending simply did not happen. Looming economic crisis. Over the years, Beijing has relied on investment, export, and consumption to boost the economy. However, in 2023, China's economy was in turmoil, and since then, Evergrande Group, Country Garden, and other leading real estate companies have been on the verge of collapse. Their stock prices have plummeted. Many companies in China have closed down, and a large number of people have become unemployed. The changing global economic context has accelerated this crisis. Foreign capital and companies have been withdrawing from China. The industrial chain and supply chain have been relocated to other countries, and the Western countries led by the United States have been blocking China's access to semiconductors and other technologies. The consensus in the West is to stop China's plans for global expansion. Mr. Li said, as a result, China's export has come to a standstill. The turbulent relations between the CCP and other countries have led to a decline in China's exports. The money that the CCP is pouring into the Belt and Road Initiative is like issuing credit, and it is not clear when it will be paid back. This is likely to turn into bad debts. China's financial situation is so bad that banks are reluctant to increase their foreign debt. He said, when domestic demand and consumption both decline, the only thing left is investment and state purchases. The so-called state purchases are government-funded infrastructure projects. The CCP does not want to do more of this to avoid going into debt. But after the third quarter figures came out, the top of the CCP became anxious. To ensure the growth of GDP, they had to do this, and they had to do it no matter how much debt they had to incur. Therefore, from the fourth quarter onwards, they increased the amount of debt and started more infrastructure projects. As the money went in, the GDP figures went up. Meaningless GDP growth. According to Mr. Li, China's GDP figures are meaningless to ordinary Chinese people. He said, if the economy has developed, it means that the people can feel it, but the actual life of the Chinese people is inconsistent with the GDP growth. What people truly are feeling is that they cannot find a job and that they cannot pay bills. Therefore, he thinks this 5% or so GDP growth rate was manipulated through government purchases. He also points out that Beijing is not a government of the common people. It only serves to protect the interests of China's elites. Therefore, China's GDP has nothing to do with the general public. No hope for the future. Mr. Li offered little hope of China having an economic turnaround anytime soon. He said that China's future economic trend can be predicted. That is, it will get worse every year. The economic growth rate will be declining next year compared to this year. First of all, there is the withdrawal of a large amount of foreign capital, the exodus and de-Chinization of the supply chain. Secondly, the people have no hope for the future. They do not dare to consume and cannot afford to consume. Once accounting for more than 30% of China's GDP was the real estate industry, the large number of real estate companies in turmoil will inevitably affect people's lives. The marginal efficiency of government purchases is dropping, and since the CCP restricts innovation, government purchases will get weaker and weaker. This is the main trend. Of course, unless China undergoes a radical change, for example, China becomes a free and democratic country with a business environment based on the rule of law, not the rule of man, then businesses will recover. Only then will confidence be restored, the economy will recover and prosper, and China's GDP will stabilize. The Japan Research Institute, Daiichi Sankyo Research Institute, Itochu Research Institute, and other research institutions from Japan have all reviewed China's economy mainly based on the data released by Beijing. They reported on China's economy in 2023 and all predicted the downward direction of China's economy in 2024. In addition, many Japanese economists also pointed out that China's economic growth in 2023 was weak and will continue to decline in 2024, and in 2025, there will be further decline. Japanese economists generally believe that the root cause of China's economic stagnation and decline is the authoritarianism of Beijing and the dictatorship of the party leader Xi Jinping. Don't forget to comment in the section below to share your opinions on today's topic with us. If you find the information helpful, please share this video with a friend to watch together. This will be a great source of motivation for our team to produce more and more quality and reliable videos. And also don't forget to like and subscribe to see more interesting topics from China Truths. Thank you for tuning in.